Welcome to CVR English. This is Naresh Kumar. Let's watch the world news. Nepali soldiers now patrol the quiet streets of Kathmandu as the army enforces a nationwide curfew following deadly protests. The Himalayan nation of 30 million is grappling with a political crisis after demonstrators ousted the Prime Minister earlier this week. Violent clashes left parliament in flames, triggering fears of deeper instability. The sudden leadership vacuum has raised concerns over governance and security, prompting the military to take control of key areas. Citizens remain indoors as uncertainty looms over the country's future. International observers are closely monitoring the situation, urging restraint and dialogue to restore democratic and order. Nepal faces a critical juncture as it seeks to recover from the chaos and rebuild its political foundation. President Donald Trump stated that investigators are making great strides in identifying the assassin of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Speaking to the reporters before departing for New York, Trump added, "Hopefully we will have him and we will deal with him very appropriately." The remarks come amid a high-profile investigation into the killing, which has sparked widespread reaction across political circles. Kirk, known for his outspoken conservative advocacy, was reportedly targeted in the calculated attack that has drawn national attention. Authorities have yet to release further details on suspects or motives, but Trump's comments suggest developments are underway. The case continues to unfold as law enforcement intensifies efforts to bring the perpetrator to justice.
Not really. I'm really concerned for our country. We have a great country. We have a radical left group of lunatics out there, just absolute lunatics, and we're going to get that problem solved. I'm only concerned for the country. Yeah.
Mr. President, how do you want to see your supporters respond to this? Charlie Kirk was a big advocate of nonviolence and free speech on campus. How do you want your supporters to respond, sir?
I think that way. He was an advocate of nonviolence. That's the way I'd like to see people respond. Say it?
Did you speak with his family?
I did. I spoke to Erica, his wife, and we had a long talk, and she's devastated. She is absolutely devastated, as you can imagine.
Are you concerned? Why haven't they found the shooter yet, Mr. President? Are you concerned that it's been 24 hours?
Well, I hear they're making big progress, and we'll have to see what happens.
Do you have any indication of the shooter's motivation, sir?
I have an indication, yeah, but we'll let you know about that later. Thank you.
Do you believe the killer was a trained assassin? Usually your instincts are always on.
I'd rather not say. I think progress is being made. He's an animal, total animal. And hopefully they'll have him and they'll get him. What he did is disgraceful. Charlie Kirk was a great person, a great man, great in every way, especially with youth. And what he did, what this man did, was disgraceful. So hopefully we'll have him and we will deal with him very appropriately.
What's your reaction, Mr. President? Are you frustrated that they have not caught the perpetrator yet?
Well, I hear they're making great strides, Maggie. I hear they're making great strides. You know, they have pictures and some other things, and they found the weapon, big factor. So they're very talented people. We'll see what happens.
More than 24 hours after conservative activist Charlie Kirk was assassinated, the shooter remains at large. Federal investigators have released photos of the suspected killer and are urging the public to come forward with any information. The assailant reportedly escaped by leaping from a rooftop and vanishing into the nearby woods. Authorities have recovered key evidence along the escape route, including a palm print, a shoe impression, and a high-powered hunting rifle. The killing has sparked a national outrage and a wave of tributes for Kirk. As the investigation deepens, law enforcement continues to pursue leads, hoping that newly released images and forensic clues will bring them closer to the capturing the suspect and delivering justice. Israeli airstrikes targeting hotel military sites in Sana'a, Yemen severely damaged the National Museum. The attacker killed at least 25 people and injured over 130. The museum's facade was visibly cracked and thousands of historical aircraft artifacts are now at risk. Video footage revealed the shattered walls and broken display cases. Yemen's Houthi-led Ministry of Culture condemned the strike and urged UNESCO to intervene to protect the country's cultural heritage. The museum, a vital repository or Yemen's history, faces uncertain recovery amid ongoing conflict. This incident highlights the vulnerability of cultural institutions in war zones and raises international concern over the preservation of heritage during armed conflict.
عادل كل المتحف يلا عادل طلع يا عند المعقد حق هذا المظاهر المراسل محمد العلي هذا المصور حقنا الشيء هذا انك عنده امكانيه وهو والله ما يصور له قطعه اثريه عادل كل المتحف يلا عادل طلع يا عند المعقد
Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani attended the funeral of victims killed in an unprecedented Israeli airstrike on September 9, 2025. that targeted Hamas figures in Doha. The strike marked a rare military action inside the Gulf country while Hamas confirmed its top leaders survived. 5 of its members were killed, along with one Qatari security force member. The MA's presence at the funeral signaled national mourning and solidarity. The incident has intensified the regional tensions, raising concerns over Qatar's role as a mediator in Middle Eastern conflicts. International reactions are unfolding as the strike challenges diplomatic norms and threatens to destabilize Qatar's traditionally neutral stance in regional affairs.
الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
US President Donald Trump reacted strongly to those sentencing of former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro, who was handed a 27 years prison term for plotting a coup in Brazil. Calling Bolsonaro an outstanding leader, Trump described the verdict as a terrible thing for Brazil, suggesting that the legal action was politically motivated. Bolsonaro was found guilty of orchestrating efforts to overturn the 2022 election results, which included inciting violence and conspiring against democratic institutions. The ruling has sparked international debate, with Trump's comments adding a layer of diplomatic tensions between the two nations. Bolsonaro maintaining his innocence plans to appeal the decision.
The Brazilian Supreme Court convicting Bolsonaro.
Very happy about it. I know President Bolsonaro not so well, but I know him as a leader of a country, and I always found him to be very straight, very outstanding. Actually, as a man, a very outstanding man. I think it's a terrible thing. Very terrible.
Condemn Russia flying.
I think it's.
Give a reaction to the Brazilian Supreme Court convicting Bolsonaro.
Very happy about it. I know President Bolsonaro not so well, but I know him as a leader of a country, and I always found him to be very straight, very outstanding. Actually, as a man, a very outstanding man. I think it's a terrible thing. Very terrible.
Condemn Russia flying.
I think it's very bad for Brazil.
Give a reaction to the Brazilian Supreme Court convicting Bolsonaro.
Very happy about it. I know President Bolsonaro not so well, but I know him as a leader of a country, and I always found him to be very straight, very outstanding. Actually, as a man, a very outstanding man. I think it's a terrible thing. Very terrible.
Condemn Russia flying.
I think it's.
Give a reaction to the Brazilian Supreme Court convicting Bolsonaro.
Very happy about it. I know President Bolsonaro not so well, but I know him as a leader of a country, and I always found him to be very straight, very outstanding. Actually, as a man, a very outstanding man. I think it's a terrible thing. Very terrible.
Condemn Russia flying.
I think it's very bad for Brazil.
Give a reaction to the Brazilian Supreme Court convicting.
Israeli strikes have inspired over Gaza City, the largest urban center in the Palestinian territory, leaving the skyline choked with a heavy smoke. The latest wave of attacks marks a deadly escalation in the ongoing conflict, with residential areas and key infrastructure reportedly targeted. Witnesses describe relentless bombardment, forcing thousands to flee their homes amid growing humanitarian concerns. Emergency services are overwhelmed, and the death toll continues to rise. The strikes have drawn international attention with the calls for restraint and urgent humanitarian aid. Gaza City, already strained by years of blockade and conflict, now faces one of its most severe assaults in recent memory. deepening the crisis for its civilian population. Public employees. The move is part of public employees. The move is part of a broader effort to streamline government operations, reduce the fiscal deficit, and meet its targets set by a $5 billion deal with the International Monetary Fund. Novo's administration has merged several ministries and secretariats aiming to improve administrative efficiency, while essential workers such as doctors, teachers, and police officers or exempt officials deemed obstructive or linked to the entrenched corruption networks are being removed. The policy has sparked public backlash and protests, with the critics warning of deepening unemployment and weakening public services. The board insists the changes are necessary to restore transparency and economic stability.
Una jornada en todo el país el día de hoy y la estamos cumpliendo frente a un gobierno indolente, a un gobierno prepotente, autoritario que no ha resuelto los principales problemas del país. Una jornada en todo el país el día de hoy y la estamos cumpliendo frente a un gobierno indolente, a un gobierno prepotente, autoritario que no ha resuelto los principales problemas del país.
A day after widespread protests were erupted across France against President Emmanuel Macron, a cleaning crews in Paris were seen scrubbing graffiti from the base of statue. The demonstrations marked its turbulent start for newly appointed Prime Minister Sebastian Lecornu, whose first day in office coincided with a nationwide rally. Clashes between the protesters and police broke out in several cities, leading to injuries and one hospitalization due to the tear gas exposure. The protests reflect growing grassroots opposition to the Macron's policies and leadership, with demonstrators voicing concerns over economic reforms and civil liberties. Lecornu now faces a challenging political landscape as tensions rise and public discontent spills into the states.
Sociale, on veut que ça s'arrête en fait, les cadeaux aux riches et toujours la ponction sur la masse.
Et là, j'ai trouvé que c'était un moment important avec tout ce qui s'est passé avec le Premier ministre et en général sur les derniers mois et les deux derniers mandats de Macron. Je trouve qu'il y a beaucoup trop de choses où on s'est laissé un peu marcher dessus, et donc dès qu'il y a un mouvement qui conteste tout ça, moi je suis là.
Palestinians carrying their belongings or fleeing Gaza City, heading south after Israel issued an evacuation order amid a fierce military assault. The operation targets Gaza's largest urban center, with Israeli forces aiming to seize control of the city. Streets once bustling with life now echo with the sounds of hurried footsteps and overloaded vehicles. Families are seeking the refuge in southern areas, though many fear it is not truly safe zone. The intensified offensive has deepened the humanitarian crisis, with aid groups warning of dwindling resources and rising casualties. As the conflict escalates, international calls for restraint grow louder, urging protection for civilians caught in the crossfire of a rapidly deteriorating situation. Residents of Santa Teresa in Rio de Janeiro took to the streets in a vibrant musical celebration following the conviction of former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro. The far-right leader was found guilty of plotting a coup after his defeat in the 2022 elections and sentenced to 27 years in prison. The landmark trial has deeply divided the nation, sparking both jubilation and outrage. In Santa Teresa, the somber rhythms echoed through the streets as the locals danced, sang, and expressed relief over the verdict, while Bolsonaro's supporters denounced ruling as politically motivated. Others see it as a victory for democracy. The conviction marks a dramatic chapter in Brazil's political history, with emotions running high across the country. President Donald Trump attended the New York Yankees game on Thursday night, drawing mixed reaction from the crowd. His appearance came after a solemn ceremony earlier in the day at the Pentagon, where he honored the victims of the September 11 attacks and the 24th anniversary of the attack. The dual events reflected a blend of remembrance and public engagement, with Trump paying tribute to those lost before joining fans at the stadium. The moment underscored the enduring impact of 9/11 on American life and leadership, as well as the complex public sentiment surrounding Trump's presence at high-profile events.
And you're going to do well. I will say you're going to win. Georgie.
A Korean Air Boeing 747-8I carrying hundreds of South Korean workers deported from Atlanta, returning to the Seoul after a U.S. immigration raid that stunned one of America's closest allies. The workers had been detained in sweeping operation targeting undocumented labor at multiple industrial sites. The plane dispatched a day earlier by the South Korean government, TAG said, and took off amid tight security and diplomatic tensions. The incident has sparked concern in Seoul, with officials demanding clarity and fair treatment for their nationals as the aircraft soared homeward. Questions linger over the raid's scope and its impact on U.S.-South Korea's relations. The deportation marks a dramatic moment in immigration enforcement and international diplomacy. That's the wrap up of the world news. Keep watching CVR English News.